In this chapter, we're going to extend our understanding of economics by looking at how these principles of the market system and competition and the basic foundations we've learned of microeconomics, how they play out in the global arena by examining some of the basics of international economics. We recognize that the reality is we live in a global economy. We trade with other countries. We are dependent upon the products, the goods and services in other countries, and they are dependent upon our goods and services. So in this chapter, you will examine the basic understanding of what an import and an export is. An import is something that another country produces and we buy. And an export is something that, say, we produce and other countries purchase. You'll learn the difference between a trade surplus and a trade deficit. And in particular, you'll examine what's known as the balance of payment. The balance of payments contains two different accounts. The current account is the one that is most commonly discussed in the newspapers and the media. And that's the trade of goods and services between countries. The capital account looks at the flow of financial transactions between countries. We're also going to examine the difference between what's known as absolute advantage and comparative advantage. The idea, especially of comparative advantage, is crucial for understanding how it is that the world's economy can do as well as it can do if it focuses on specializing in the things that it has a comparative advantage in producing. But the reality is many countries will restrict trade. They often will restrict trade for a variety of reasons. Maybe they want to protect jobs in their country, or they have this perception of national security needs. And they tend to restrict trade in one of three ways: an embargo, a tariff, or a quota. So you'll examine the reasons we restrict trade and how we restrict trade. Then you'll examine how we actually pay for things that are produced in other countries and how other countries buy the things that we produce. And it depends on the exchange rate. So the exchange rate essentially is the price of one country's currency relative to another country's currency. And when those exchange rates fluctuate, that has an impact upon the prices that we experience. So out of this chapter, you should understand the basics of international trade. And the import is as well as an export. You will understand the two different accounts in the balance of payments. You'll begin to understand the difference between absolute advantage and comparative advantage, and why specialization is so important, as well as why we believe we should restrict trade, and how the payments are made between countries, and how changes in exchange rates will alter the prices that are paid. And this is a fairly large chapter, but international economics is a fairly large topic, and it's increasingly an important topic for you to understand.